We are on the lunch break in the first day of questioning of the undercover police officer Robert Hastings, who, using the cover name Rob Harrison, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, amongst other groups. I'm joined by Asa Winstanley, who was involved with the International Solidarity Movement at the time when it was infiltrated by Rob Harrison, HN118. What have you made of seeing him for the first time after all these years?
Well, I think common experience to a lot of people, I didn't recognize him. And I was telling others on my way in this morning that I'd been trying to sort of picture him in my mind, what he might look like, and coming up with these images of him looking a little bit older. But it was really a situation of, if I'd been in a room with him, how he looks now, at the time, and I'd looked him dead in the eye, I would not have recognized him.
It seems other people have said that about other officers in the past.
Yeah. And it was quite shocking. I found it much more difficult than I thought I would. And yeah, I mean, I honestly, I said to Atif, it's not him. It's a decoy, right. Like a David Lynch movie or something. But it's definitely him. You can recognize his voice and the way he speaks. Yeah.
So what have you made of what he's had to say?
Just pure victim blaming and gaslighting. Still, like, everything he says is a lie. He's the victim.
Very much.
He's the victim.
Strongly, doesn't it? Yes.
He's the victim in all of this.
Yeah. I think particularly, there was a point just before the end where he was asked, in terms of moral consideration, did the needs of your role outweigh the betrayal of the individuals? And he said, oh yes, but in hindsight, I would say, and we're like, oh, here we go. Here's a moment where he's going to show some sort of humanity, but no, it was about how it weighed heavily on him to have had to betray people, purely about himself, not even any sort of like distinct lack of public relations by him, that, he doesn't not realize how badly he's coming across, but I don't think he does. He's also really, really tried to cosplay as an intellectual throughout.
Very much so.
Liminal. The use of
he's using it wrong as well.
Repeatedly. And that's not the only long word.
Very pretentious.
Very pretentious. Incredibly pretentious. He also, he kept not answering direct questions. He would answer questions with just like a different topic, kind of giving examples of things which didn't seem at all related.
Yeah.
And he was really pushed on this with repeated questions about, did he witness anything about ISM doing anything other than what the aims of ISM were in terms of getting people to travel out to Palestine and show solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Yeah.
And it took him ages to get the point that no, he didn't.
He said no in the end, but he repeatedly tried to hint there was.
Yeah, repeatedly. Yeah. And even after he said no, he still tried to go, but there might have potentially been that somehow he missed out on or something.
Exactly. And then he was forced to concede at one point that he'd never actually been to Palestine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was hilarious, because he was going, well, it was my job to work out if anybody was going to go and commit any offences whilst they were in Palestine. Oh, and did you find any evidence of this? Well, I didn't go.
Yeah.
Like, why did you bring it up then?
He used this word act. Yes. He just said an act. And he's trying to hint at things which I think we'll get into later. And a lot of it goes to the racism as well. And the tasking, we went in this morning to some of the tasking he received and so forth, and how, whether he was supposed to continue infiltrating ISM or not, or move on to other groups as he did eventually. And Atif made the point to me that, he was given this tasking in a way that, because he's reporting on a person with the name Atif Chowdhury, he's trying to imply that to his handler there could be some sort of quote unquote Muslim extremism here, whereas if he was, giving the name Chris Smith or something, they wouldn't have bothered. That's the mindset. So it's like a very, very racist mindset, a very racist structure, and he's still now today. We've said portraying himself as the victim, but he's also still trying to portray himself today, now, this morning, as some sort of anti-racism white savior. It's the mind boggles, honestly, seriously, and yet he still effectively condemned the Macpherson inquiry.
Yes, yeah.
in
He was
some
quite upfront with
detail.
that because he said, what were the views of your fellow officers about the Macpherson report and the finding of intentional racism? So there was a range of views, and then every view he gave was negative about it.
Yeah.
It was like this, and then but he didn't accept it. He never witnessed any racism in the police at any point, whilst in uniform.
Yeah.
I mean, just ridiculous statement.
Yeah, another point Atif made to me is that the on the Macpherson inquiry was that, and I didn't pick up on this, but he used the phrase, the death of Stephen Lawrence, the death in the passive, not the murder of Stephen Lawrence. That was really, that's really telling. And Atif was like, that's how you can tell he's a cop, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a very frustrating morning of evidence, and I mean, I did turn to the person sat next to me and was like, I don't know if I can. 3 more days of this is going to be horrendous. And she just went, I don't know what the hell he's on about. I can't follow it. And I think this is part of the point, right? I think this is something that was really developed by Bob Lambert when he was giving evidence to the inquiry. I mean, if you word cloud enough, you can obscure the point that's being made. You can just fill the time, fill the space, and not really emphasize anything of any substantive interest, And there was a lot of questions that were put to him. I mean, for example, he was shown the code of conduct document, which he had signed. Yeah. And it was put to, he said, I've never seen it before. And it's like, you signed it. And he went, well, did you not read it? Well, I hope I would have. I mean,
It's true. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of obfuscation. Yeah. There was a lot of hinting. There was without, implying things without outright saying them, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was incredibly frustrating. I found him the weary.
Yes. I mean, he still uses that terminology.
He did.
He just can't bring himself to say activist. He has to say weary. We had a bunch of stuff about sex. I mean, some of it was just really gross, really offensive.
God, yes. Let me read a comment that we were making. Yeah, what did he say about that?
Essentially, there was the whole thing that he claimed that he was subject to aggressive sexual approaches, repeated. He kind of made out as if this was like a huge problem for him. It was the most difficult part of his deployment, was dealing with all these approaches he was getting from so many female activists.
Yeah, and there was a particularly graphic one about somebody. He used the word fellatio.
Yes.
Effectively forcing him into fellatio.
Yeah.
It was just disgusting, and it was a comment that was made in real time from a former comrade who was watching at home was complete fantasist. No one fancied him. Forced him into fellatio. Spat my coffee out at this one.
Yeah, quite. I mean, it is also quite frustrating that Sarah Hemingway, the counsel to the inquiry who was doing the questioning today, didn't do any follow-ups on that. I really hope there will be further follow-ups.
It's really grim because he was, he's trying to portray all these activist women as like these sort of sex mad, nymphomaniacs or something like that. And so therefore he had to, otherwise it would be suspicious. Well, I could tell you from experience, no, that's not how it was. No. That's just not how it was. It's just a complete lie.
And I mean, he also had, somewhat similar to Simon Wellings last week. He hadn't even constructed like a believable fucking scenario for this. It was just it just didn't come across in any way as credible what he was talking about. He kind of came up with other stuff where he said that there was he differentiated between having sex with activists and sex with non-activists whilst undercover. He got very hung up about the particular way that questions were being asked about this, and was like kind of like interrogating the question repeatedly. At one point, I mean, it was a different topic, but he was like, "What does community mean?" He was asked for a definition of community, which was just like ridiculous. There was one where he was asked about extremism.
Doing a Bill Clinton there.
Yeah, really.
Depends what the definition of the word is.
Yeah, right, exactly. Do you know what I mean? It was just so, did he have a sense that he was keeping the public safe from extremists? He said, well, it depends what you mean by extremists. Some people would think that 2 people jumping over a barrier and running towards Tony Blair in order to harass him was a form of extremist. So who can tell? Well, who can tell? Who can tell, Rob? Hey, who can fucking tell? It was, he is. I mean, just a word on that. We've come to be used to David Barr, KC, doing the questioning of the witness of the undercover police officers, who has got a much more caustic style.
Right.
And it is frustrating that when expecting him, we have Sarah Hemingway. I'm not criticizing the way she's doing her job, not for a moment, but it is a very different style. She doesn't do the immediate follow-ups. She doesn't like change tack to try and catch the witness out particularly. I do hope there is further follow-up on some of the things he has come out with, because I think when you go through the detail of what he actually did say, there's a lot of holes in it, and like actually getting some specifics out of him, like with the sex stuff, like who was that? When was that? When were you driving this person home?
Yeah.
At what event?
She did follow up a little bit in regards to Maya and tried to tease out if he meant that Maya had tried to sort of inflict sex on him, and he did admit that that was not the case. He tried to wriggle out of saying it.
He said he said that it was more organic.
Yeah,
which I mean, like, given the testimony we've heard from Maya, which was very much that, you know, he groomed her.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that, like, you know, to the idea that in some way was organic.
Yeah,
just gross. Also, I mean, like, even if it had been, you know, a situation where it had been, you know, equal on both sides in the moment, it never could be, because it's totally deceptive. He's an undercover police officer.
Exactly.
You know, so I mean, to use the word organic in that is just offensive. I mean, it was quite interesting. It was put to him that, you know, was there ever a point where he felt that he could no longer turn down the sexual advances he was receiving? And he took a very long pause before saying, "I'm going to say no." Which, I mean, like, it doesn't fill me with confidence that, you know, he didn't at some point that there weren't other women, there wasn't other situations that happened.
No, there was.
Revealing. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. And will those be explored at the inquiry? You know, it's difficult to know. Yeah, I found him. I mean, like, you know, I always say they're the worst ones. I mean, he has been particularly odious. I don't feel we've got a lot of light in terms of, like, understanding his deployment. We saw the authorization documents that said that the reason for his deployment was in order to detect early signs of support for terrorism from activists, which, I mean, so, you know, throughout whenever people hear about the spy cops, people always go, "Oh, were they after terrorists? Were they?" And it's like, no, actually, they really weren't. That was not who they were after. People who hold placards and march with banners in the street. That was their target group. And then, you know, this is the first time we've had someone who's like, "Oh, it's explicitly about terrorism and Islamic terrorism," which is like the most scary form of terrorism, from what I understand, in terms of the way that it's talked about. And like, but, you know, he said he was given this roaming open brief for Israel, Palestine, and floating. Yeah, and he like landed on the ISM, and then he was meant to, like, branch out, but he didn't really branch out for ages. And when he did, he looked into anarchist groups and other things. You got no real sense of him having any real handle on these topics.
No, and actually, he explicitly said that he did not. He made a point of not learning about ISM before entering it, because it was like a way to not appear suspicious of knowing more about ISM than other new people who were joining it, so that therefore he could learn as he went on. But you'd think, I mean, I know when I joined ISM, I spent quite a long time learning about it before I went into it. And then, of course, you learn more, but then you do some basic research, and it seems like he didn't even do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a point, like, kind of, I can understand why you maybe wouldn't want to read the individual files on people you're targeting. I mean, I don't believe him that he didn't do that. But, like, you know, you might read their website, pick up a leaflet, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like, the other main point, apart from him just being a psychopathic narcissist, is he is just a massive liar. I would look up at the sky if he told me the sky was blue.
Yeah.
You know, it's that sort of levels of lying, and he's still doing it now, and he's a civil servant.
Yeah, I mean, he is, I think, probably the angriest man we've seen at the inquiry.
Really,
like he seems quite livid. I mean, somewhat similar to Jim Boyling,
he's got a very red face.
Very red face. Yeah, he does. Like, whenever there's like any murmurs from the public gallery, he looks over at us.
Really, okay.
You know, which is kind of like. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a sense that he's like waiting to be offended by something. So for any time that the counsel of the inquiry mentions his partner, he's an ex-partner. You know, and this kind of sense that
there was a whole moment earlier on where he was asked about his ex-partner, and he did some fake crying about the impact on my family life, and I wasn't there. My ex-partner was effectively a single mother because I wasn't there. Why was that? Why the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Who made that decision? You know, he's just like the victim constantly.
There was a bit where we were looking at the. He was asked about the tradecraft manual, and he said, "What bits of the tradecraft manual do you remember?" And he was like, "Oh, I remember the humour." With a famously amusing document, the SDS tradecraft manual.
Yeah.
And the bit of the humour was about the fact that when you leave the SDS, you'd be like, "Why am I so poor?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, well because he was asked about the amount of overtime he did. He said, "Oh, well, we always claimed the maximum amount of overtime," and that was because even early on, though you didn't do that much overtime, later on you did quite a bit. So the idea was it would level out, but it still wasn't enough. He was still sure that it wasn't enough, and he should have been paid more. It's worth repeating that the SDS officers were the highest paid members of the Met Police at the time.
Right.
I mean, Sam Wellings was the highest paid police officer at the time. He was slightly senior to Robert Hastings, but it was still like a really excessive amount of money. This is on top of his expenses.
How much was it per year, do you think?
I'm not sure of the figures by this stage. We did see the figures from the 1980s, which would have put them in some of the top earners in the country.
Wow!
I mean, the extras they were getting, and I mean, also there never used to be a cap on the overtime, and because they would count sleep as overtime because they were cover roles. So I mean, they were filing for hundreds of hours a week. You know what I mean? Just like quite insane. We've got a long way to go. We've barely touched on his deployment. We haven't really got to any of his reports yet.
How is it going to go this afternoon and tomorrow and Thursday? Like, how?
I mean, essentially, we normally get to a stage where we're going through, in a time sort of fashion of like what was when, like the reports, like kind of. Which report was released when, with relation to it. We kind of go through all his reports, any other supporting documents from the period. There will be probably a fairly large exploration of the witness statement and the appearance of Maya and what she said, and like kind of putting it to him that this conflicts with what he said, and kind of all that stuff around there. It's really hard to tell. I mean, Sarah Hemingway is, like I say, is not normally the counsel who does the questioning of undercover officers, so her style might be quite different to what we've been used to.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've barely got into his deployment, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very much the early days. So, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Well, is there things about his deployment, about your experience of knowing him as when he was in his undercover role, that you would like to see explored?
Well, I unearthed several emails from him from back in the day. I would like to see, and they are exhibits to the inquiry that I don't know if they've been released publicly, not all yet, or they're going to be soon. But
I mean, don't hold your breath.
Okay. Well, I understand that he is going to be asked about some of them today, and there's one in particular where he's acting as a clear agent provocateur in terms of what he called arrestable offences, which he's trying to get them to do. So hopefully we'll see that questioned.
Yeah, there's a lot about his online behaviour. And I mean, there's been a lot of talk about him as Boogie Boy on 75, a lot of exploration of that. What maybe hasn't come out so much yet is the fact that he was posting very extensively on the private forums on 75, which a lot of it seems to be about sex. And I mean, it's quite interesting that while says that he was trying to turn down sexual advances, his persona online was very much someone who was looking for sex.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot in there which hopefully will come before. Talked about stuff with Rise Up and on email lists. Hopefully that'll be explored as well. It's not an area the inquiry's been very good at in the past, to be honest. But I think we're getting to an era now where like the use of and it's going to be huge for Tranche 4. The online sort of activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, well, we're on our line for this. We've had some comments. One from Proudhon. Do we know if I'll be questioning on future days is all top secret like much of the public inquiry? I mean, I would imagine that we Sarah Hemingway throughout. They never changed the counsel who's doing the questioning, so we'll be stuck with Sarah Hemingway for the entirety. I'm not saying that she's doing a bad job. It's just very different styles. Very different style. And in the past, she has had some difficult days at the inquiry when she's been doing the questioning. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm exhausted.
It is very tiring. It's difficult to follow because he's making it so difficult to follow. It makes it that extra level, as well as the horrible disgust. You don't really want to spend time with this person, and the act of following the inquiry is basically spending time inside the head of a very odious character.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us. We'll do another report during the break in the afternoon, and at the end of the day, I'll be posting throughout the day on X, Twitter, whatever we call it. And please like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It makes a huge difference to how well they're viewed and